Happy New Year and welcome to the first video on this channel this year, and I wanted to go over Zone 2, and it's something that just fascinates me. The more I look into the science, the more I look at the actual results people get from a health point of view, and it's just amazing how not many people are actually training directly to improve Zone 2 and the benefits it gives in terms of metabolic health. I know I think I've done previous videos about it, but I host a run club every Sunday, and there was a couple of people who joined today who aren't necessarily well versed in training, and there was just a few things that they weren't aware of that's probably holding them back in a health point of view, but also motivationally in terms of every time they turn up to do any form of activity, they are fully going for it. They're doing higher intensity interval training, they're not utilizing Zone 2, so the body is not able to fully progress in every way of the word, really. So Zone 2 is something that I haven't consciously included in my routines until I would say more the last 6 months. It's something that I should have included a lot earlier than what I did, but I think I will get more than enough benefit out of it now the way that I am doing it. I have finished the 150 minutes a week that I've just done now, and if you are going to watch this video all the way through to the end, I'm going to go through why Zone 2 is so beneficial for you, how to actually implement it on a practical level, and then what other things can you take from Zone 2 training. The science behind Zone 2 is that it improves mitochondrial function. Mitochondria is a buzzword that's passed around a lot of people online these days, but what does it actually mean? It's something called an organelle, which is a mini part of a cell. And the mitochondria is where a lot of energy is produced and utilized. So if you train this aspect of the cell, you improve energy utilization, you improve energy storage, and then you decrease the dysregulation that can come about through metabolic dysfunction. So just from hearing them things, it's obviously beneficial to improve mitochondrial function and density, which is where Zone 2 comes in. So Zone 2 is mainly allowing the body to use fats as an energy source. So mainly you have two energy sources within the body. You have glucose, which is sugar, and you have fats. Now, when you are not doing that high of an intense activity, then the body should really be using fats. The reason being is that fat, as a lot of people may be aware, has 9 calories per gram in terms of energy production, whereas glucose only has 4. So it's very dense within energy. It is the primary storage of energy within the body, and that's why a lot of people are upset when they have an abundance of energy, because it's stored as fat, normally subcutaneous, so underneath the skin, and it doesn't look that aesthetic. But what happens is if you store too much fat, it will become within the cells, and that can lead to a lot of complications. I've literally just been looking into and making a course about insulin resistance and metabolic dysfunction, and it all stems from, well, not all of it, but the majority can be attributed to poor physical activity and not utilizing Zone 2 training. So before I go off track, Zone 2 is where the body is more primed to use fats as an energy source, and by doing so it is more efficient in obtaining energy, but also prevents dysregulation in the long term. So the next thing is, how do you measure whether you are training in Zone 2? So there are a few ways. The gold standard way is to use a lactate test, which is normally an ear prick test where you can then test the blood and see what levels of lactate are actually happening in your blood at that one moment in time. Ideally 1.8 to 2 millimoles is where you want to be. That's not something I've personally done, and it's not something that I'm going to be doing in the near future because there's just too many moving parts to that. So then the next thing that a lot of people will be more familiar with is the use of smartwatches. So it uses heart rate zones as a guidance towards Zone 2. And the correlation between the heart rate zone and whether you are burning lactate or producing lactate is quite a good correlation, but it's not something I would solely rely upon. It's not something I use. I don't use smartwatches, merely because I always forget to charge them, and it just wasn't something that fitted into my life. And I know a lot of people do get a lot of benefits from using them, so I'm not going to talk about them in this video. But the way that I do use Zone 2, or a measure of Zone 2 training, is something called RPE. So that's the rate of perceived exertion. So normally I'll do a YouTube live at the moment because that keeps me in balance. I'm able to have a conversation without looking stupid in the gym where it looks like I'm speaking to myself. So I actually have a YouTube live on, and I have a conversation on the live. And if I'm able to have a conversation, it shouldn't be as comfortable as we're having a conversation now, but it should be to the point where you can recognize that I am doing some form of activity. And if we were in person, I would ideally love you to have a bit more input than what I'm doing. Now, if you don't want to look stupid in the gym, or when you're running outside, you don't want to sing or talk, then you can use nasal breathing. So if you are able to nasally breathe, then you probably are in the right zone. And I mean, it has to be close to where you need to then open your mouth. That is like the perfect sweet spot. And if you can spend as much time as you can in this, you then reap the benefits of using more fat as an energy source, and then reducing the fat accumulation within the muscle, liver, etc. So improving your metabolic health. Now, we've talked about why it's beneficial, how to measure it, but the next thing is, how should you then put that into a practical regime? So at the moment I use 150 minutes, or I aim for 150 minutes of zone 2 training a week. So I think that's a sweet spot without going too far into being an actual aerobic athlete. I think it's a good compromise. So I do that in 2 1-hour sessions, and then I do a 30-minute run. Like for example, today I done about 15 minutes zone 2 in the morning with the run club, and then I done a bit more after it. So that's where I am getting the 150 minutes at the moment. Now, people will say 3 hours is a good spot, and it's all relative to where you are. If you are not doing any zone 2 training, then by all means, any zone 2 is better than none at all. But I always say with a lot of these people, especially the person I spoke to at the run club this morning, where they were not aware of zone 2 training, and they were finding training overall quite hard because they were just going all out. And that's the thing, is that if you are going in too high of a heart rate zone, then you're producing more lactate. You are not using fat as an energy source. And the reason that is because when you are carrying out these lower intensity levels of training and exercise, the immediate need for energy isn't there. So if I was to go and sprint 40 yards now, probably even less, actually 20 yards to get away from a tiger, a lion, whatever it is that you want to create the scenario, then I need an instant burst of energy. So how that's supplied is through glycogenolysis, so the glycogen that's stored within the muscle, or phosphocreatine, and they are immediate releases of energy. And then after that point, if we can then reduce the intensity, then the actual need for energy is not as immediate. So then we can use sources that may take a bit longer. So to actually take fat from fat in storage to fat as a fuel, it has to go through a few processes called fatty acid oxidation, which is more laborious than breaking down glycogen in a muscle cell. So that is why doing these levels of training is so beneficial, because you're targeting that utilization of that energy system. And that's why people who are going from nothing to all out, they never find that improvement in fitness, because they are not using all of the energy systems that we have within the body. So I've gone a bit off track here, I actually don't know where I was up to, but 150 minutes is a good starting point. If you're not doing anything at all, by all means increase it to some form of zone 2 activity. And it isn't that bad. You will, when you are training, it is an active form of training. You will feel like you sweat more, you feel as though you have to mentally engage, which is a good thing. But then after it, you'll feel as though you haven't really done that much activity, which I've done again. I've done about an hour and a half today. I don't feel like I've trained that much, which is quite good for me, because I like to train on a daily basis. I don't go all out on days. So zone 2 I class as a lower intensity day. So I'm able to incorporate a lot of different modalities of training going forward. But if you are already exercising and you are trying to find out how this fits into a normal training week, then if you have 100 minutes of aerobic training, so cardio, which is what it's known as, 80% or 80 to 90% should be in zone 2. So 80 to 90 minutes of them 100 minutes should be in zone 2. The other 10% should be HIIT. It should be lactate threshold. It should be something that's really hard, VO2 max testing, because that's where you then, if you think of aerobic training as zone 2 as the base and the peak of the pyramid being VO2 max, you obviously need a big base to support a large peak, and that's how I would think about it. But 150 minutes is a good start, and I will probably do many videos on zone 2, because the more I look into how it helps metabolic health, how mitochondrial function is so important in living a healthy life, obviously expanding longevity, all the other buzzwords that you can think of are related down to metabolic health, or on the other side, controlling metabolic dysfunction. Now, if you've got this far, thanks for watching. As always, a disclaimer, this is not medical advice, and actually this one was probably the least medical out of all of them. But anyway, we have not created a relationship. If you are seeking medical advice, you should do so through your registered provider. And if you do have any ideas about any videos that you want me to cover, by all means put them below, message me directly on whatever social media platform you're on, and I will always cover it, because at this moment in time, I'm just going into things that I'm really interested in. And if I find anything else out, I just tend to make a video about it. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.